3 NBA playoffs, and you guys just saw this. This is where amazing happens, and we're here to get you set on NBA Today, presented by American Express. You know it's a big show.
Yes, sir.
When the man, the myth, the legend is in the building. Stephen A. Smith, Chiney Ogwumike, Kendrick Perkins is going to be joining us in just a little bit. And there are so many questions heading into these playoffs that I think we need to look at, we need to address, we need to answer before the clock that's behind me hits zero. So let's start in the West here, guys, because it feels, at least to me, like this is as wide open as the West has been in years. For you, though, Stephen A., what is the #1 question in the West?
Well, actually, I have two. Our first question is, why isn't Kendrick Perkins out West? That's the first question. I mean, he should have been here. Why am I here? He's not here. But we'll discuss that another day. The other question would be this. Is this the end for the Golden State Warriors? I think it's a legitimate question. I refute it. It is not the end. The Warriors are still a team to be reckoned with. They will be a team to be reckoned with for the future. But a lot of people out there got a lot of questions about them. They haven't been able to win on the road this year. Had just about 11 road victories. We know how awful they were away from San Francisco. And obviously, they're not going to have home court advantage in any of these series. What are they going to do? That's the question. I believe I know the answer because I believe in these boys. But that is a question.
Stephen A., you know you always pick the Warriors. You did it last year, and you looked like a savant, a genius, a basketball aficionado, which you are. But now you have a question for them, even though you probably are still picking them. Let me just say, I want to start things very nicely, because I know you always say that we treat...
I'm in the middle. Well, I got to be in the middle between y'all. Y'all sandwiching me. You're plotting against me.
No, we're not. We're friends here. And your feelings are fluid. So I'll get to my answer. In the West, the big question, as it's very fluid in the West, is really the Phoenix Suns. Can they get it done? When you acquire someone to the talents of Kevin Durant, who did not just have a 50, 40, 90 season, he had a, 55, 40, 90 season, made history in 47 or so games, the expectation is automatically championship no matter where you go. So my question is, can these guys, after acquiring Kevin Durant, which we love Devin Booker, Chris Paul had some better games as the season sort of winded down. DeAndre Ayton is another question within the question. Can he show up and hold things down with that youthful exuberance and spirit in the post? Can this iteration of the Phoenix Suns that really gambled and put all of their chips in the middle of the table to get Kevin Durant really make this a championship year? I know the pressure feels like it should be this year. It could be later, but I think all eyes are going to be on them because they know the implications of such a decision.
Well, particularly this first-round series against the Clippers. When the Clippers are shorthanded here, it feels like, okay, maybe we want to see this. This could be something you'd ever want to bet against Kawhi Leonard. But then when you look at the firepower on the other team, it feels like that's a foregone conclusion. For you, Perk, what's the biggest question out West?
Well, first of all, Stephen A., my brother, I love you to death, but don't you get too comfortable in my damn seat, okay? Don't get too comfortable in my damn seat. I love you. I know you love L.A. Don't get too cozy in there, all right? That's the first thing. Okay. But I hear us talking about, I hear the world talking about, hey, is this the end of the last run for the Golden State Warriors? Chiney just talked about, when it comes down to the Phoenix Suns and Kevin Durant, him and Devin Booker and CP3, can they get it done? And we talk about, does LeBron have enough left in the tank to overcome this young Memphis team? And can Sacramento beat the Warriors and knowing that they're young but have home court advantage? Well, the team that has the best record in the Western Conference is the Denver Nuggets.
Yes, it is.
And why the Denver Nuggets don't have us talking about them and they're the #1 seed? Is it because their coach has called them out plenty of times on being soft? Because they have all the pieces. They have a 2-time MVP in Jokic. They have Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., who are all-star caliber players. You have Jeff Green, Bruce Brown, and Aaron Gordon, guys that fit perfect around their system, and a good coach in Michael Malone. So the question is that what are the Denver Nuggets doing that we're not talking about them for as being the favorite, for as representing the Western Conference? That is my question.
Well, they fell off. They fell off those last few weeks for the regular season.
Yeah.
We understand that there was an injury to Jokic. There's no doubt about that. But they tailed off a bit. And when they tailed off, what they reminded us of is who they are. In other words, they were a really, really, really good team. But when you look at the elite, you say, would they really get over the hump? Have they convinced you that they're those dudes? They haven't. That's the answer to your question. Nobody believes Denver are those dudes until further notice.
Well, and that's kind of my question is 1 through 3 in the West true, right? When we look at the Denver Nuggets, when we look at the Memphis Grizzlies, when we look at the Sacramento Kings, they've been some of the best teams in the league all year long. They've been consistent, and yet we're still saying, well, but the Lakers, they could really push Memphis. Oh, but Golden State, really, they have a chance against an inexperienced Kings teams. Nobody fears the Denver Nuggets. So 1 through 3 in the West, that really is my question. But then out East, it kind of feels like we got the Bucks, it feels like we got the Celtics, we got the Sixers, and then we got everybody else. So Stephen A., what's your biggest question out there?
Oh, yes. Oh, I can tell you this
a little
much.
bit.
In the Eastern Conference, ladies and gentlemen, are the Philadelphia 76ers going to finally complete the process? Now, as a person that worked in Philadelphia for 17 years, I was so appalled. It's a true story, no exaggeration. I was so appalled, I called up and ultimately paid a visit to the league office because I was so appalled at them throwing games years ago. It was ridiculous. They were losing on purpose. It was embarrassing, and they had to change it, okay? Well, you sat up there, Fultz, Ben Simmons, Embiid. We waited years for all of this. Embiid is that dude. He's my league MVP. You got Harden. Maxey can ball. You picked up the Anthony Melton. You got Shake Milton, okay? You look at the pieces that they have in place. There's no excuse for the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah.
I know Milwaukee and Boston are perceived as being a bit better in our eyes, but the bottom line is the 76ers have what it takes, especially if James Harden shows up and does what he's supposed to do. Will the process finally be completed? That is the question.
And the implications if it's not, right? Because Joel Embiid, he's leading the league in scoring for the second straight year as a center, which is very remarkable. Again, this is my MVP, Joel Embiid as well. If I had a vote, hey NBA, hey Adam Silver, give me a vote. I would love one. I would appreciate it. I would cherish it. But then also I think the implications of, all right, if they don't get it done, what happens? Because you have those rumblings with James Harden, and you heard the feelers, you know, I keep my ear to the ground when it comes to Houston, about like those types of situations where he may leave. You also have young developing stars in Tyrese Maxey. It's like, all right, how do you maximize this situation where maybe this didn't work? We thought the spark plug, we thought the role players, we thought the defense. They figured out the offense. Now they have to figure out completing a season.
Sure.
What is the standard? Is it getting to the NBA Finals and you feel like the process is complete, or is it winning a championship? Actually, like Stephen A., would you feel better if the Sixers made it to the finals at least and say at least the process gave the fruits of the labor actually?
My answer to that would be yes, without question. Again, but to me, you can do it all because who in the West can't they beat? When we think about the Philadelphia 76ers and who their biggest roadblocks are, it's Boston and it's Milwaukee.
Right.
So if you get there, then we'd be saying, finish the damn job.
Right.
And that's really what this comes down to. So it's going to be interesting.
Well, particularly because in the second round, they would have to play Boston. They would have to go through Boston. Milwaukee gets an objectively simpler path to the finals.
I believe Boston will beat them.
You believe Boston is
I believe Boston has Philly's number. I believe Boston has.
They have in the past,
That's
historically.
Right. I just do. And when Embiid dropped 52 on them and won that game a few weeks ago, remember, Jaylen Brown had played in that game. And that's what it took.
Well, and then there's the implications of Doc Rivers. What happens there? We had him on the show yesterday, and I asked him, what is a successful season to you? And he said, I think you know the answer to that. And I said, well, my answer would probably be the finals. And he kind of said, yeah, that sounds about right.
You did a damn good job with the interview.
Thank you.
And you did a damn good job hosting Countdown this past week in Malika. I'm just saying.
I mean, I feel
Somebody
like
got to tell you.
I appreciate that. I know we're supposed to be bringing you flowers today since you said me and Shanae aren't nice enough to you. So we're working on that. Big perk.
Big perk, they're not.
Do you agree with Stephen A. not that me and Shanae are not nice enough? Because we definitely are nicer to Stephen A. than we are to you. But the biggest question in the East is the Philadelphia 76ers.
You know what? I understand, right, what Shanae and Stephen A. is going with this as far as them completing the process. But can a certain team actually complete the mission? And that team that I'm talking about is the Boston Celtics, the team that actually went to the NBA Finals last year.
Their #unfinished
a team
business.
That has a team that has a player in Jason Tatum who just finished the season averaging 30. The first Celtic player in that organization to do that. When you look at their roster, they have two bona fide superstars. They have a bench and Malcolm Brogdon and Derek White. You have a defensive player of the year type player in Marcus Smart who won it last year. You have two guys that can anchor your interior in Al Horford and Robert Williams, and you could throw in Blake Griffin to that aspect because he's been giving them some solid minutes. So when I look at their roster and I look at what they done last year and how they started the beginning of the season, how is the Bucks the favorite now? What did the drop-off happen with the Boston Celtics? Did they get bored? So that is my question in the East. Are they going to complete the mission? Because look, although they may have Philly number, those games were very, very close. Even when they had Jason Tatum, remember, he had to hit a buzzer beater 3 the second game that was before the last game that was in Philadelphia.
Well, first of all, I'm not going with that. I think Kendrick Perkins caught up in his emotions. He picked Boston to win it last year. They let him down. They broke his heart. And he was in the city of Boston. He was very upset. He actually showed up to Harvard. They didn't even want to let him in. They didn't want to let him in after that because they was blaming him for the loss. He still hasn't gotten over that. That's number one. Okay, so let's get that out the way. But number two, and more importantly, I think when you look at Boston, I will remind Kendrick Perkins has brought up on numerous occasions